Hi, welcome to the Pursuit of Truth. It is the 4th of June 2018. So I was just watching on YouTube Beyond the Imaginary Curve, which would have been, I think it was Sundays or Saturdays, I'm not sure which one it was. And there was an interesting conversation between Dale and an Italian gentleman. I think his name was, I was going to say Giovanni, but I don't think it was Giovanni. Gianni, something like that. Gianni it might have been. And it was interesting in the sense that when Dal was asking him, okay, he obviously Gianni believes in the globe Earth, so he's asking him, well, can you prove to me, because wherever we look, we can see water is level. We measure level. Level is measured by water. And asking him to show an example of a sphere or a ball where water's sticking to it, like the pictures that we see. And he couldn't really give an example, obviously, you would say. He tried to give an example to talk about water in a bucket, which I thought was very ironic, the fact that a bucket is a container, and the Earth as a sphere doesn't look like a container. Whereas obviously if you had a flat plane, it'd be easy to contain that water, because for a container to work, which the water must be in a container, because we can tell that because the water's level. We know if you fill up your cup, like I've been saying previously on the Pursuit, fill up a kitchen bowl, even if it is circular at the bottom, it's level on the top. It's always level, so yeah, it was interesting that he picked a bucket, of all things, but he couldn't. The thing that interested me from a sort of human point of view is that he was unable to answer that question, and it didn't make him think, wait a minute, the argument I'm giving, do I actually have an answer to it? Have I even, how do I know what I'm saying is correct when I can't even give an example when it's being challenged? I think that's, what's the name for that? Is it cognitive dissonance? Because obviously we're all brought up believing in what we believe in, what we're taught. And when we start to challenge that, some of us, we can't challenge it, like I know there's lots of things that I've thought and I've argued against, with someone, or I argue against it with someone, and then afterwards I'll go away and my brain will suddenly think about, wait a minute, where did you get that argument from? Why do you believe what you believe? Have you actually thought about that? And then I'll realise that, wait a minute, I'm arguing something I don't even know to be true or not. But we do that a lot. Humans do that a lot. We don't need to know truth to be able to argue about it passionately, vehemently sometimes. Which is a very interesting concept if you think about that we don't need truth to argue about something. Think about it. Actually go and look at all your arguments, or if you have an argument in the future, afterwards think about, wait a minute, when you were arguing about that, did you actually know for true what you were arguing about? Some people argue about cars, about football, and they won't know the ins and outs of the argument the detail of the argument they're actually arguing about. There's a lot of assumption that goes on. An assumption can be false. So it was very interesting to hear Dale bring this guy to task about, okay, if you want to make a claim about something, you need to show me. There must be plenty of evidence. I mean, when the guy asked Dale for evidence, he was able to give him evidence. He was able to show him how water is level, and lakes and oceans and a cup and whatever, and so, and that's what I know I've mentioned this before in the Pursuit, in the kitchen bowl. The idea that, and it makes me wonder why they don't think about this, because when Dale's saying it makes sense, in the sense that if you think about it, no matter where you see water with your own eyes, it's level, in your cup, in your bowl. There's huge lakes that are flat, oceans. Now I know there'd be contention when it comes to oceans, because people believe that oceans do bend because of the idea of the ship going over, which is, that doesn't actually happen. But even a sense from, if you look, and I know I've mentioned it before, on the pursuit, and I know Jamie Brown's been mentioning it recently as well, about how you're looking from the curve from left to right, because obviously if you're on a ball, the curve is everywhere basically, isn't it? It's actually curving in every single direction. It's not just left and right and back and forward. The curve is actually 360 degrees curve, because of the ball. So there should be curve everywhere. But yeah, like I was thinking, if you actually stood in a big enough space, you look out, yeah, you can see, I don't know how much, but obviously if you look to your left, you look to your right, and if both of them are level, you're standing in the middle, you should be in the middle of the curve, isn't it? Because if you can see, I don't know, like 100 miles one way or 50 miles or whatever you can see with the camera or with your eye, you're actually double that because you're in the middle of it. So there should be some curve there somewhere, but if there's no curve, then what's this curve about then? But yeah, but from my point of view, it's like we know, we can see with our own eyes water, and we can see how water acts. We know it can't bend. So the thing you've got to think about then is, wait a minute, if you know all that, you know, that's common sense, then how do you marry that up with images that show an earth with water that bends around? Because if you admit that water is always level, even from a scientific point of view, if you admit that water will always be level, and we measure things with water for level, then you can see it with your eyes. How come when you get pictures from high up, does this then start to look like it's bending? Because it can't, unless it's some kind of optical illusion. How can it bend? Because we know it can't bend here. And you've got to remember, you here are seeing with your own eyes. And when you see the pictures, they're not your own eyes. That picture wasn't taken by you, it was taken by somebody else. So therefore you've got to question that, because you don't know that's somebody else. You're trusting that somebody else. But how can fact and an image, you can't have two varying, you know, it's going into George Orwell, isn't it? You can't have two conflicting arguments. Doublethink, isn't it? So yeah, it was really interesting hearing this conversation between Dale and this guy, and it just made me wonder that why this guy wasn't. And this, I mean, I know it's with all of us. You know, even I would have maybe, if I'd ever had an argument with a flat Earth when I was believing in the globe, maybe I would have done, you know, wouldn't have thought about it till afterwards and realised, wait a minute, I'm arguing something, I can't give an evidence, I can't give a proof. This person's telling me these things that actually make sense, and I can't actually, you know, so how can I say that I know something if I can't prove it? Especially because he seemed to be, Gianni seemed to be quite knowledgeable about things, scientifically. But the only way he could come through with answers with sophistry or words, you know, or maths to make things make sense, rather than actual what you can actually see. But yeah, it was really, really interesting. I would, if you want to have a listen, it's on YouTube under Beyond the Imaginary Curve. And it was either yesterday, which would have been the 3rd of June, or the 2nd of June, I don't remember which day it is. I'm catching up on these things. Alright, anyway, that's it for me for now. Take care, take it easy, God bless, and peace.